Hi everyone! So I thought I would pop out another video real quick because this style seems to be working for me, and I got my kids to be quiet for a few minutes so that I could do these videos. Anyways, this video I thought I would do on Book of Shadows, Grimoire, and like the way that I do the system for myself, and that way in case like it gives anybody else, ideas. I'm not going to do like a full Grimoire tour or Book of Shadows tour or anything through what's actually in them right now. I just want to talk about the use, like how I use these two books. So I actually have a Book of Shadows, that's this one, which is my working book. This one is the one that I put any like spells that I'm working, any information that I'm trying out, seeing how it works for me, new deities that I'm working with, or new energies that I'm working with, or new rituals that I'm trying for the first time, anything like that. It's sort of like the journal log of what I'm doing. The Grimoire, which is this one, which is this big leather-bound book that obviously I'm absolutely in love with. I've had this book a long time. I think I've had it for about 13 years or so. And, so I'm familiar with when you go out and you purchase a big book like this, it's like quite an investment, right? Like this thing was like $300. And I don't say that to brag. I say that because like I know what it's like to go and invest in the book that's going to be your official Book of Shadows, Grimoire that you like want to pour your heart and soul into, but also have that striking paranoia about doing something wrong in the book or messing it up or not being able to, so I know what that's like to like not write in it because you want it to be perfect because you spent all this money on it, invested in it and stuff. So this was how I got around that issue. So even if your book isn't super expensive, but it's just really intimidating because it's really pretty and you love it and you don't want to mess it up, or have things in it that you really don't use, this is kind of how I suggest you go about that. So, or how at least I've dealt with it. So this is my Grimoire. That means that everything that has worked out really well in this book that I know that I use, that I know that I connect with, that I know that the spell works really well for me, all of that stuff, once it's final and I'm like, yes, I like that, I'm going to use it again, then it goes into the book. And when it goes into this book, it goes in pencil. I write everything in this book in pencil first because sometimes I might decide to change something, or I found that the wording isn't quite right, or just in case, I mess up the spelling of something or something like that, right? I write everything in pencil first, and then I go back over it in ink or, like marker or color or something if I'm going to do that later. So that's how I do the two of them. So this particular book, so this book has in it, what it actually has in it is my circle casting, the book Blessing, obviously, circle casting, Sabbath information, correspondences, daily correspondences, correspondences for like crystals and herbs and things like that. So all of your sort of like just basic information about ingredients for spells and timings and astrological information and all of that kind of stuff that's sort of basically the same, from any book that you get, is kind of how I've put it in here. So it has all of that. Then it has the spells that I've done in this book that have turned out the right way. So then this one has a lot of that same stuff in it too, because if I'm checking stuff out and seeing how it works for me, seeing if it like that's the way that I like it. And what I mean by that is like deity invocations or working with specific deities. Like I might work with a specific deity for a while before I determine whether or not that's something that's probably going to be a long-term thing. And so I write that in there and what information it is that deity is specifically giving me and all of that stuff. And this book, I actually made this one. So this one is made, I'll go through an actual tour, but I'm just trying to, I'm just saying this one is, so it's made out of an art one of those art books. So the papers don't, like, you don't change anything. I don't worry about what order I put stuff in this book or anything like that. It's more like a journal. So I just write it on the next page available, any information that I have, and then I go back through it and I decide to mark stuff, whether it worked or didn't work. And I take the time for the spells, like what day it was, what season it was, what astrological sign it was in, and how well that worked for me and stuff like that. So all that information goes into this book when it gets put in there. If a spell was successful, I know what sort of day I did it on. I know what moon cycle I did it on, what astrological sign it was in, all of that stuff when I put it into the final product of this book here. So anyways, I just thought I would share on that, because you don't have to have like just one book that you either write in or don't write in, you know, because a lot of times we can get sort of paranoid, I guess you could say. Like we get worried, like anxious about messing up the books. So I have two. I have the Grimoire, and I have, now this one, like obviously this one is not as thick, right? So I'm going to go through this as a journal and have to make another one. And then I'm going to have these ones as a collection, like of a bunch of different kinds of, you know, Book of Shadows or whatever you want to call them. Like, you don't have to, obviously, I just call this one a Book of Shadows and this one a Grimoire. You could do it the opposite way if you want. You could just call this your journal and this one your Book of Shadows. Doesn't really matter. That's just how I do it. But you can go through, like, obviously this is going to be filled up, and then I'll make another one and have another one. But this one will be something, because it was built so well, and it was my intention was for it to be passed on, and I want it to be passed on with information in it that I know for sure was very useful to me, because there's a lot of information out there and you never really know which things work well for you and which things don't work well. Also, I will say that even though I have, like, so I might decide I want a spell that I know for sure works, and I go to my big book and I pull out that particular spell or ritual or, you know, information or whatever. And even when I do that, I record it in here. So I still record the date and all that stuff that I've done the spell, even if it was one that I know that works out of here, I still record it in this one as a journal. So this one's just all of the information. This one doesn't have any of my notes in it that are like, this worked for me or didn't work for me or whatever. Like, this one doesn't have any of that stuff. This one has all the information, or I mean all like the spells and information on deities and craft and stuff like that. This one's where you're gonna find my like notes on whether it worked or not, things like that. And most of the time, most of the things in here never get put into this one because they just didn't work out. I didn't like them. I didn't connect with them. I had to have a place to trial and error before I wanted to commit to putting it into this book. And so that's just my suggestion for how to sort of have a Book of Shadows or Grimoire, even if you're super intimidated to work with it, like maybe a system that would work better for you. It really works well for me, and I've been using the system now for a while. So anyways, I just thought I would share, and hopefully it'll help some other people get over their anxiety about, you know, writing in a book that you really treasure and love and stuff like that. And again, write in pencil. Like, I write it in pencil, and then after a while, when I go back to actually decorate the page, which when I do the walkthrough, you'll see that most of the pages aren't like decorated, right? They're just, they're still written in pencil. And so when I go back to decorate the page, then I write it over it in ink, and I don't try to erase the pencil underneath necessarily, like I might do some if I just don't want it in that spot or whatever. But pencil will eventually wear away from it, and then the ink is the only thing left. So I write it over in ink, and then I add, you know, any artwork that I'm going to add to it or whatever. So anyways, well, I hope you guys enjoyed that and got some use out of that information. And I will talk to you again soon, and you can like and subscribe and share with any of your friends or anything like that. I leave a link to my Instagram and my Facebook in the description below, and I will talk to you guys later. Blessed be.